Hello, everybody, and good morning from Nairobi in Kenya, East Africa, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining us in this second of 3 webinars that Atlantis is hosting with the Open Compute project. And this time we're going to talk around open networking. So we're very pleased to have Edgecore Networks join us. Our speakers today, Daniel Njuguna, founded Atlantis in 2011, and he will be talking to us around some of the experiences that Atlantis has had implementing open networks in our own deployments in East Africa. Steve Helvie is the Vice President of Channel Development with Open Compute, and it's been a pleasure working with Steve on Atlantis' journey to become a full member of the Open Compute project. And then lastly, I'm delighted to welcome Lukas from Edgecore. Edgecore's been one of the most active contributors to the Open Compute project, and Lukas as an individual is a real pioneer and quite spoken around the subject and passionately represents his company. So a great set of speakers here this morning, and hopefully something really interesting for you. We will start with Steve. Steve's going to go through open networking and how that's developed from the Open Compute project, and indeed has a number of spin-off projects associated with it. Then Dan will look at the open networking in Africa, what Atlantis has done. And then lastly, a really interesting piece from Lukas around Edgecore's strategy for telco as service providers and large enterprises in particular, from the data center, getting closer and closer to the edge and delivering open network all the way to the last mile. So firstly, pleased that Steve Helvie will talk to us about the origins of Open Compute and the open networking project within that umbrella.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today's session. My name is Steve Helvie, and I'm part of the team at the Open Compute project. I have the opportunity to work very closely with Atlantis and Edgecore networks, and I hope you find today's session of value. As I go through today's presentation, I hope that you get one pervasive theme, and that is around disaggregation. The more that we see people adopt open source, either software or hardware, there's this concept of disaggregating the hardware from the software, even at the hardware components, this modularity or the disaggregation that's taking place across the data center from compute, storage, and of course, networking, which we'll talk about today. The Open Compute project was started in 2011 by Facebook as they began to outgrow their infrastructure. So as they were developing their new infrastructure and the new data centers and the new compute and storage and networking, they tried to solve a lot of problems that they had with traditional hardware. And once they solved those problems with the manufacturer, they took it a step further and they open sourced their designs across the data center, compute, storage, and networking. So with the help of Facebook, Microsoft, Intel, Goldman Sachs, and Rackspace, the Open Compute project was formed. And just 2 months ago, we added Google to the board of directors for Open Compute. Today, we're well over 150 companies working 190 plus contributions across the data center and 6,000 engineers solving common problems in the data center. All of these specifications and contributions lead to open source hardware products that are available in market. And you'll see those on our marketplace, and you'll also see those through Atlantis and Edgecore later today. Like most open source organizations or technical nonprofits, we work based on projects. So these projects are run by volunteers, and they will manage their individual communities. And we have around 15 to 20 different projects across multiple areas of the data center. Server, storage, HPC, telco is growing quite rapidly, as well as our advanced cooling group is moving quite quickly. But probably the fastest and the most mature project of all is our networking project. Leading the open networking project has been Edgecore, along with Facebook and other members, including Cumulus. They're really driving not just the designs, but also the direction, even up to the software level and beyond, the entire stack of how open networking should be looked at in the data center level, all the way out from the aggregate to the edge devices, which Lukas will share a little bit more about later. We see open compute switches starting to dominate the white box or the unbranded switch market, where we're up over 50% of the data center market as of the middle of last year. And though you can see the top reasons there in the upper right, there's a lot of pressure to reduce the CapEx within the data center. We have a lot more SDN offerings, as well as the rise in merchant-based silicon, which Lukas could get into more details. But we're seeing a great deal of growth across cloud service providers, telco, public sector, financial tech, as well as e-commerce, gaming companies, etc., looking at open networking as a way to increase their efficiency at the network.
Thanks very much, Steve. So Open Compute Project is really a movement across the world, and the major partners within Africa are Atlantis, and I'm delighted that Dan, the CEO of Atlantis, is going to talk about the experience we've had with open compute and open networking over the last 3 years.
Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for joining us. My name is Daniel Njuguna from Atlantis Technologies. Atlantis Technologies is a solution provider within the Open Compute project. And I'll just give you a brief history of where Atlantis was and where we are going, and how we started, and the lessons that we've learned along the way. So Atlantis is about 9 years old. We've been a solution integrator for some of the world's leading OEM brands. Over the years, we've had a lot of learnings and successes in terms of the technology delivered to our customers. Some of our customers are listed on the left-hand side. Part of our delivery of technology has shown that as much as technology is changing, us as an organization also need to change and be able to offer solutions that are timely in terms of technology. They are more agile, and the ability to offer these solutions highly depends on the current technologies at play, and what we can do as an organization to be able to deliver some of the newer technologies than what we've been doing before. So in our journey over the years, we've realized that some of the problems that the customer has been facing cannot be addressed by the brands and the technologies that we were delivering over time. And that's the reason that we started working with the Open Compute project. Some of the winnings that we've been able to gain as an organization, and some of our experiences and our learnings, is what we are currently trying to bring into our customers, and to show our customers, yes, us as an organization have been able to assimilate and use new technologies, open technologies, and though we might have sold you branded OEM technologies in the past, but because open compute and open technologies are now mature and ready for the enterprise, we are trying to tell our customers that we can offer you much better and much more value for money using the open technologies than what we used to do before. So our business transformation started in 2008. Our organization has gone through a number of POCs. Some of those POCs are actually live deployments, like Savannah Cloud, which is actually deployed in Nairobi at the East Africa Data Center, and is also listed on the Open Compute website as one of the solutions that we are offering to both customers as enterprises, and also to cloud service providers. The reason we've showcased our work with OCP and the Savannah Cloud platform that we built is because the technologies that have been used on the Savannah Cloud platform are 100% open. from open hardware to open networking, which we are currently talking about today, some of the lessons that us as an organizations have learned is a lot of winnings in the following areas. A lot of savings from CapEx, a lot of savings from OpEx, and a very short return on investment, and just the ability and the flexibility to do product development much better than we could normally do using closed technologies. Our winnings and our working with the Open Compute project to build the Savannah Cloud was also very much lauded in the global press coverage. This is the first deployment of 100% open cloud platform in Africa, and we already moved from a POC stage and already carrying customer workloads on this particular platform. So the platform is built with agility to be very easy to expand. We can also extend our platform as we wish, because we really don't need to use one particular hardware or infrastructure vendor. We have a choice of a lot of ODMs we can use. In this case, we are working with Edgecore on the network and other organizations on the infrastructure as far as hardware servers are concerned. So the deployment that we did has actually this physical rack that you can see on the right-hand side, and this is the actual image of the open rack that we delivered. The rack has a lot of YWIN and YWIN servers and storages. It has an open rack version 1, which is the OCP open rack, and has Edgecore networking gear, both for leaf and spine. So we used Wedge 100 switches for both leaf and spine. If you look at the rack, all the networking cables are on the front, so there's nothing actually at the back. And if you were to do this using a traditional way of deployment of such a rack, you'll have a lot of cables at the front. But because we're using software-defined networking with open Edgecore switches, we're able to cut the number of cabling. Each of these yellow cables carries 4 IP addresses. If you are to do this using your usual way of networking, it means you'll have at least 4 times of the number of cables that we are talking about. And then also the standard deployment on these servers comes with 25 gig network ports. Each network port connect to 100 gig network ports on the Edgecore, and we're able to carry multiple IP addresses, traffic for multiple IP addresses on a single cable. So whether it's management or it's Ethernet traffic or storage traffic, we're able to split this traffic into different zones on different network subnets, and be able to carry them on the same network infrastructure using the same ports on the servers, because the servers come with 25 gig ports. So that highlights some of the key benefits that you can get if you're going to use open networking. And some of the other benefits that we have seen as a user of open networking on Savannah Cloud is we have the ability to use a lot of vendors, both for hardware and software. So you have the flexibility to choose a particular box can be used with any of the approved vendors for software. And the reason we are using the Open Compute project as a platform is because we are able to standardize the quality of the service that we get and the quality of the service that we give to our customers, because we don't want just to offer open systems that are not standardized. Then they don't have a clear support metrics. And this has always been the concern for most organizations when we engage with them, how sure that we can support open infrastructure or open source software for networking. The software and the solutions that we are offering, even on the Edgecore gear, are actually enterprise-grade network operating system. For ourselves, we've standardized on Cumulus, There's other network operating systems like Sonic that are also supported on Edgecore gear, and all these give customers the ability to choose from from the number of vendors that are available on the platform and also on the Open Compute project. So there's also ability to automate provisioning of, for example, IP addresses, services. If you have to do a cloud platform, for example, and you want self-service provisioning, you cannot do this without using open networking. You must make sure that the hardware is completely disaggregated from the software, and by so doing, you're able to let the network operating system assign IP addresses to services and provision services to customers without any human interaction. You cannot do this on your usual networking. For example, if you're using your vanity networking gear that is already tied, the hardware, the functionality of the network device is tied to the hardware. You're not able to achieve some of these advantages of running a network operating system on top of disaggregated hardware. If you look at control of the network landscape, the reason cloud providers are able to offer a lot of services to their customers just from the click of a button is because at the back of everything they're using open networking. If they have to use your closed vendor locked-in networking, you'll not be able to get some of these advantages. And then lastly, we have a lot of savings on OPEX and also CAPEX. If you look at the distribution of some of the biggest data centers in the world, they are managed by very, very few people. We do not, because we've automated most of the provisioning, the reporting, the error reporting, the logging, having automated most of these functionalities, there's very little need for smart hands to do every other configuration on the network or support or to intervene whenever there is a network challenge or a network problem. So at Atlantis, we are very happy to offer some of these benefits to our customers, and we're working closely with the Edgecore networks and Open Compute project to make sure that we're able to deliver services that are cost effective and also in tandem with the times, looking at the fact that we are going into cloud as a mode of delivery of technology. We must also make sure that we are providing the technology that the hyperscalers and the cloud providers in the world use to deliver their services. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dan. It's been a really exciting journey and one that will carry on. Lastly, we're really pleased that Edgecore have joined us. As I said earlier, one of the most prolific contributors to the Open Compute project, and in particular, Lukas, who's a major ambassador, not only for Edgecore, but also Open Compute and Open Networking.
Hi guys, my name is Lukas and I represent Edgecore Networks. Once again, I really appreciate you taking part of that webinar. Great thanks to the OCP team and the Atlantis, really appreciate. At Edgecore, I'm running sales and channels across the EMEA region, and today I would like to take you and show you where we are with the open networking and where we are going with the whole evolution. So what is open networking? I believe that most of you could be aware or could hear what is open networking, but to simplify that as possible, the concept is really well known, and we know that from the server wars. So today, when someone is buying the servers, no one is pushing you to buy, let's say, a branded IBM server with a software like Microsoft Windows or Linux on top. Simply, you are buying what you need. You are choosing your hardware, you are choosing your operation software. And something pretty similar was happening in the networking. So we know very well traditional black box where everything is integrated and where we have so-called vendor lock-in. So the hardware and the software are coming from one vendor. We are calling that those boxes like a black boxes. You could also hear about something new like a white box or a bright box. So what it is, here we are dealing already with a disaggregation. So the hardware and the software are coming from two different sources, which is just great. So when the hardware, like an open hardware, is coming from vendors who are maybe not precisely designing that hardware and especially not manufacturing that hardware, then we are calling that this is a bright box, like a branded box. And we at Edgecore, we are focusing on so-called bare metal switches. So this is the purest, let's say, open source hardware. We are designing that hardware, we are manufacturing that hardware. If needed, we are helping the other brands to put the logo on top. And we are focusing on the hardware only for more than 30 years. So going forward, why someone should choose open networking? We believe that there are the most important factors, like a freedom, control, and the innovation. What I have on mind, so first of all, freedom. Simply, there is no vendor lock-in. You can take that hardware from us. You can also take that hardware, pretty similar hardware, from the other guys, and there is a few on the market. So you can mix the vendor in your network, which was impossible in the past. Control, that is a great idea. Simply, every of our design is contributed to OCP. So there is no secrets. You can check the design. We are showing everything. Every platform we are providing like 200 plus pages, how we are doing that, how we are designing, what is exactly inside. So this is a really the best way of controlling your hardware. And the innovation, let's park that one. I will try to bring you over my slides and the journey and show you what exactly I had on mind saying innovation. And those a few logos are really critical in our industry. So everything started from the OCP. You already are aware with the organization, but beside that, we as an Edgecore, we are focusing on those a couple of others, like the ONF, which is pretty similar, but it's bringing the open source community together. There is a couple of really interesting projects. Telecom Infra project, TIP, it is like a sister project of the OCP with a focus on the telcos and telecom hardware. Pretty new is then here. You will find then as a software with an enterprise focus. And the Sonic, I hope that most of you are aware, is potentially the greatest what is happening right now in the open source and the networking today. So it is really mature open source software which is fitting into data center scenario, in our opinion, pretty well. So we as an Edgecore, we are really active working in those all project or organization. Even myself, I am supporting OCP as a regional lead manager directly. I am also active as an A-team ambassador under the ONF program, and you will find a lot of my colleagues supporting that all open community. So if someone is wondering who exactly Edgecore is, before I will go there, it is always good to explain that Edgecore is like a branded business inside the Acton Technology Group. And Acton itself is the leader in the ODM world. It's a Taiwanese-based company with the headquarters in Hsinchu, for more than 30 years in the industry, designing networking hardware, both switches and the server and the APs. As you can see, maybe some numbers, we are around 2 billion revenue as a whole group. And Acton is really making those old designs and manufacturing hardware under the huge volume for not only Edgecore as the company and like the go-to-the-market subsidiary inside the group, but also for the other tier 1 brands, which you know well from the traditional industry. I represent Edgecore, and Edgecore was started in 2004. Primarily, we've been focusing on the traditional business where we've been providing our own hardware with our own software. But today, really, what is driving our company is open networking and the whole disaggregation. It is interesting to know that we, as an Edgecore itself, we provide or we ship last year around 10 million interfaces, and I can tell you that most of those was related with the 100G technology. Open networking evolution. I really like that slide because it's simple, but in the same way, it's showing really a lot. So everything started from the data centers, the first disaggregation of the 10G and the 40G, which was happening around 7 years, even 8 years ago. Basically, when I joined Edgecore 6 years ago, we had the first ever contribution of the 10G switch. It was our 5712 on the Trident 2. And the data center market today simply is just growing. We have more and more different designs. The speed is getting higher. I remember that after my job and the 4 years after that, we've been doing the contribution with the first open ever 400G. So you can see how that is really progressing fast. Over 4 years, the speed changes from the 10G to the 400G. This is really unbelievable. But we are not only focusing on the data center market. The open networking today was really going from the data centers to the telcos and even to the enterprise and campus. So going to some details, if we start from the data centers, we can see on that slide like a typical leaf and spine architecture. So 10G, 40G, 100G as your leaves and 100G, 400G as your spines. And basically today, our portfolio is really complete. You can choose different speeds, different feeds, different software, which I will also say on some other slides. Maybe what could be more interesting is that we are working closely with some hyperscalers. One officially which we can share is Facebook. So there is a couple of really nice and exciting designs where we've been supporting Facebook as well. We've been starting from the pretty simple box, that wedge 16X with 60 times 40G. It's based on the older today Trident 2 chipset, and pretty fast we went to fully 100G design on the Tomahawk Plus with 3200G, as you can see on that slide. But what is new based on our cooperation is a really great modular and flexible design called MiniPack. So still this is like a one ASIC design, which is very important because you have one ASIC inside, you have one control plane, you have 8 slots, and we have 2 different kinds of the line cards, with the 60 times 100G or the 400G line cards on the QSFP-DD with 4 interfaces. So you can mix those 2 different types of the line cards, but still under that one ASIC, you can have like up to 128 times 100G or 32 times 400G or a mix of those. So this is really a powerful design. Enterprise. So why the campus, why the enterprise could not use the same equipment as on the previous slides coming from so-called data center market? It's true that in some cases they could use it, but there are some basic requirements where especially the campus guys are looking for. For example, power over Ethernet. We at Edgecore, we've been the first who started to provide PoE switches. So currently we have a series called 4610, 4 models inside, 2 are coming with the PoE. This is really powerful design based on the Helix 4, and we are supporting there a high PoE, like a so-called ultra PoE up to even 80 watts. But the evolution and the new designs are also coming here. So what is new? There are new chipset like a Trident 3 family, and we can support even in that access area VXLANs in layer 2, layer 3, which is just great, especially when someone is dealing with the wireless. The PoE is still there, ultra PoE, even up to 90 watts, really high PoE budget. And if someone is also looking for some open appliance, like so-called universal CPs, this is also the focus of our company, where we are providing such as open CPs, where based on the different software, you can have like really great, cost-effective and high-performing, for example, router, VPN, firewall, and so on, so on. I encourage you to take a look on a really exciting project called BIOS. It's really cool what those guys are doing. Of course, enterprise and campus need a wireless. So open networking and that disaggregation, it's also something that you can find here. Again, it is worth to mention that we are cooperating together, working together with Facebook under a project called Express Wi-Fi. Again, if someone needs more information, just let us know. And last, but really the biggest investment and the focus, and I believe especially for our region, for the Europe and the EMEA, potentially the biggest opportunities are related with the telco space, telco market. So on that slide, you can see basically where we are together today. We've been starting from the access, because access is in the end the biggest from the number of the potentially units, and not only. So today we have universal CPs for that market here as well. We are working on the passive optical network. We are working on the radio access, mobile backhaul, 4G, 5G. We are in the aggregation, and we are going to even to the core. And when someone needs some kind of like a hybrid solution, hybrid technology, we have also a great product called Cassini, which is like a combination of the switch with 60 times 100G and the coherent technology under the modular slots, where you can mix ACO, DCO plugins and go over hundreds of kilometers and your black fibers. So just a few examples. This is our growing family of the side gateways. Once again, why we have to do something different, something new, dedicated for the telecoms? The answer is very simple. When we are going from really nice and cozy data centers to the telco environment, depends of course where, we have to deal with some new challenges. For example, we are going to the street cabinets. So it means that our hardware have to be under the industrial grade design. We have to deal with a high buffer. We have to provide some extra space for the routing under the external TCAMs. The airflow could be also under the different requirements, not just port to power, power to port, but from site to site. Let's take a look on the example that 27x. We have a SASA gateway with 60 times 10G, 8 times 25G, 1 times 100G, and 2 100G for the stacking. Maybe you cannot see exactly on those slides, but there is also very important part of that kind of the technology, which is related with the time synchronization. It is the must if you are going to that part of the network and you wanted to aggregate the traffic from the base station. Or sticking or going to the access, we have a few really interesting designs, like a disaggregated open OLTs for the PON, passive optical network. We started from the 10G, then we went to GPON 2.5, and now we wanted to even create something more flexible. I'm sure that we will be able to share some news pretty soon. And going to really powerful core router devices. So this is where we are touching also at different families of the Broadcom silicons. So we are not with that data center like Tridents or Tomahawks. We are going to Strata DNX Dune family, where you can find chipsets like a QMRAM, MX, AX, UX, which I was showing on those smaller designs. Or we are going to Jericho 2, Ramon, where really we can create a powerful virtual distributed routers. So every of those 100G interface, it's not just like a regular 100G, it is your 100G port from your router with a high 6 gigabit buffer with external TCAMs and so on. But this is open networking, and it's great to have basically all the options from the hardware perspective, like starting 1G with the 10G, 1G with the 25G, 10G with the 40, with the 100G, fully 25G, and so on, going to 400G. But still, very important is our cooperation with the whole software ecosystem. So today you can go over two different passes, open source, and there is a couple of different projects. One mentioned already is Sonic or the DENT, or you can go to a really well established company and go under the commercial approach. I will bring some names, but like you can see, it depends what you are doing, what you need. You can have a software which is dedicated for a data center or the CFP or the enterprise. So Cumulus could be one of the really nice example. RT-Brick, DriveNers, IP Infusion, and so on. I'm sure that I am not showing all our software partners on that slide because this is changing so dynamically that basically every month we are working with someone new. And when someone also wanted to let's say, aggregate that disaggregation, they can go with guys and gentlemen from Abstra or xCloud today, Netris, and they will help you to provisioning your network, to automate your network. Again, this is a really exciting topic for maybe another call. So when someone is wondering how should start, first I really suggest to take a look on our website, to take a look on the OCP website. You will find there a lot of great examples, videos, tutorials, some case studies. But really, if someone wanted to put their hands on the real hardware, we have Edgecore labs where we can set up a different configuration for you. You can be connected directly to our headquarters. One we also do have here in Europe, in Poland. And as you can see on the right side, we also do have like a mobile labs, which are available across of our region, where that could be like a close in the box. I believe that this is the best way to describe. 2 leaves, 1 spine, 2 servers, different software. You can play, you can check. The same we have with the passive optical solution. So 10 GPON, our disaggregated OLT, is also ready to be sent if someone wanted to play. And I would like to thank you once again for the opportunity to participate in that presentation meeting today. Once again, much appreciated, and I'm looking forward to answer all your questions soon.
Thank you, Lukas. And thanks also to Steve and Dan. Interesting exploration into open networking and how African enterprises and telcos can benefit from the disaggregation of hardware and software. And we've talked recently as Atlantis around the technical debt that exists in organizations that's passed down from CIO to CIO, and a lot of the OPEX and the development time is in maintaining those systems, whereas what we're seeing now is a disaggregation of hardware and software, where companies such as Edgecore are allowing companies to move forward with massive flexibility and interoperability. And for me, that is the future of the industry. We'd like to take any questions now.
Paul, we have a couple.
I can't see, but I think Steve can. So
yeah, we have a couple in the questions field for those of you online. If you have any questions, please put them into the questions area. So this is a question for Atlantis and/or Edgecore, most likely Lukas. So it said that we're having challenges in our edge network handling the PoE over at the Ethernet sessions on our existing routers. Does the Edgecore network OCP boxes solve that problem, and can you configure them as a concentrator? If yes, would it be possible to test this out in one of their networks?
Yeah, there is such an option. And in fact, it is always related not only what our hardware is capable to provide, but also mostly with the software which is able to support today. So the whole story around the routers is pretty new in the open networking, because as I was trying to show, we've been starting from just a typical leaf and spine and the data center, and going to those more advanced technology in the part of the network like the routers. It is a challenge, but also a journey which we took with the pleasure. So the hardware is there, or in some cases is almost there. The software, there is also a few companies. I maybe didn't show all the names, but we are working with players like, for example, Infinera or Adva or Exawell or DriveNet. Those guys are definitely those guys definitely have a great experience on the routers. Also depends what exactly the requirements you could have on mind. Maybe it could be just dealt by the universal CPUs with the VIOS. So please just feel free to drop me an email for the more details and for the discussion.
Great. I'll make sure that that gets a more individual answer after the webinar. This is another question for Edgecore. Can Edgecore provide support for protocols other than Ethernet, for example, InfiniBand or similar?
No. So we are focusing primarily on the active Ethernet. We've been not touching here those mentioned one. And in general, if you will take a look on the open networking, open hardware, whatever, bare metal switches, white boxes, bright boxes, all here based on the active Ethernet currently, yeah? Or maybe passive optical network, but this is a different case, and I'm sure that you didn't have that on mind. So the answer is no, it's active Ethernet.
Okay, great. So there's one other question, and I believe this would be for Lukas. So as you work with customers, what are some of the skill sets, or how big does the team need to be to start working on open networking?
Really good question, Steve. So, you know, the size of the team is really doesn't matter. You can start with a very basic skills. If you've been touching any networking in the past, then switching and jumping into the open networking is not a big deal. Still, the old protocols were working the same. And additionally, if you have any kind of experience coming from the Linux world, server world, this is just on plus, because some of the network operation softwares are able to provide you a CLI, like maybe Cisco-like, Junos-like, and so on, but all of them definitely will provide you shell access. Because in the end of the day, those all networking operation softwares based on the Linux, on Debian. So that could be also a great news for those Linux experts, because even that in the past they didn't touch networking, now very easy they can also do that, because they have experience with, I don't know, Ansible, Puppet, CF Engine, and so on, and in the end of the day, switch will looking like a server with plenty of the interfaces. So really easy to start. Also, if someone would like to touch our hardware, as I was sharing, we have some labs. We have also some mobile labs. But also what to mention is that Cumulus is providing like a virtual environment where you can simulate your network, you can play there as well. That is also pretty cool. I really encourage you to check this out.
Great. We've got time for one more, and this would be more for Atlantis. So what is the support? How does the support for open networking different than, say, support for traditional networking appliances? How do you handle support?
Okay, thank you, Steve. I'll step in on that. My name is Daniel. From a support perspective, Atlantis has been a solution integrator for other OEMs before we started our open networking and open compute journey. So we still maintain the same support structures, but just now these support mechanisms are way shorter than we will probably do with the usual OEMs. So Atlantis will provide level 1, level 2 on the ground, and depending if we need a part replacement or a patch on a particular box or a switch, we will access that service directly from the ODM. So in this case, maybe Edgecore or the network operating system vendor, Cumulus, Sonic, and the rest. So our experience has been that we're able to resolve issues much faster using our current support structures based on the open ecosystems than we'll probably do if we are using a vendor, because the OEM vendor has much more steps, and also delegates a lot of support to other third parties, even globally, and does not directly offer support to us as partners or as customers, in this case with our own systems as Atlantis. I'd like also just to add on what was asked in the beginning, whether Edgecore supports InfiniBand. Of course, most of the open networking is based on Ethernet. So it just depends with the current deployment that a customer wants to do. And Atlantis' experience, having worked with all these other multiple technologies, I would say you can still get the same speeds of your desired infrastructure using Ethernet, and also simplify the ecosystem using an Ethernet or an open networking based of deployment. Our experience with Savannah Cloud is that we're able to do all storage traffic through the Edgecore switches, and we get much better throughput if we are to use what you traditionally call a storage, a software-defined, storage area network infrastructure, which is the usual normal way of deploying solutions. So the whole point of us going into the open networking, open compute, is for us to be able to offer a complete end-to-end software-defined data center. If you're going to do a software-defined data center, despite all the talk, all the marketing talk in the market, you cannot achieve it without doing a complete disaggregated infrastructure from the server, storage, and networking. If you're able to achieve this complete disaggregation on those three areas, then you're able to achieve complete software-defined data center. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Daniel. Actually, we have one more question that popped up here. So this is for Lukas and Edgecore. Do you participate in any IETF standardization activities?
No, the answer is that we are not there, but definitely we are very visible and active in the open community. So we are maybe not influence the market under the new standards, but everything which is basically available is supported by our hardware. And then again, it is a big combination and very close cooperation with the software ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree. And so in general, Open Compute is not a standards body, but we provide a community and a framework to accelerate the technology through open source, much the same way that Lukas mentioned, along with the other organizations that he mentioned. So with that, Paul, I will turn it back over to you to close.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, and thank you all for attending today. Thank you for the number of questions, and also thanks very much to Dan, and particularly Lukas, for the insights into how we can change the future using open networking, hardware and software. Thanks again, everyone. We'll be in touch with the content of our third webinar. In the meantime, if you have any ideas of what you would like to hear about the Open Compute project, then we'd be very happy to receive all your input. Thanks again, and keep safe.